Most men believe attraction fades with age. They think youth is the currency of desire, but female psychology tells a very different story. Most men grow up believing that attraction has an expiration date. They're taught, directly or indirectly, that once youth fades, attention disappears, desire weakens, and relevance slowly slips away. By the time a man reaches his 60s, many assume he is no longer seen in a romantic or magnetic way. This belief doesn't come from female psychology, it comes from fear, social conditioning, and a misunderstanding of how attraction actually works. Attraction is not built on youth. Youth is loud, impulsive, and visually obvious. It relies heavily on surface-level cues like speed, novelty, and physical intensity. But what draws women at a deeper level is not the energy of youth, it is the stability of presence. As men age, their value shifts from external display to internal command. Women instinctively recognize this shift, even when men themselves do not. By 60, a man who has lived fully carries something younger men can't manufacture: emotional weight. This isn't about money or status alone. It's about how a man occupies space. A man who no longer seeks validation, who is no longer desperate to prove himself, sends out a silent signal of self-sufficiency. Female psychology responds strongly to this because safety, emotional reliability, and grounded leadership matter more with maturity than excitement without direction. What most men miss is that attraction evolves rather than disappears. In earlier years, attraction may begin with physical intensity. Later in life, attraction begins with psychological stability. Women don't suddenly stop noticing men as they age. They start noticing different things. They notice whether a man is settled within himself or still battling insecurities he never resolved. They notice whether he moves with intention or restlessness. They notice whether he speaks to be heard or speaks because he has something to say. A man over 60 who understands himself becomes rare. Many men carry unresolved frustration, regret, or bitterness into older age, and this is what repels. But when a man releases the need to chase outcomes and instead becomes present in his own skin, attraction naturally follows. Presence is calm. It doesn't rush. It doesn't compete. It doesn't explain itself. Women feel this immediately, even if they can't articulate why. Female psychology is deeply responsive to emotional leadership. A man who has survived loss, pressure, responsibility, and change and remained composed communicates strength without effort. This strength is not aggressive. It's reassuring. It says, "I've seen chaos, and I'm not shaken by it." That energy is profoundly attractive because it offers safety without control and confidence without ego. Another misunderstood truth is that desire doesn't operate only in the physical realm. Emotional resonance intensifies attraction far more than appearance. An older man who listens deeply, responds thoughtfully, and maintains emotional boundaries creates intrigue. He doesn't overinvest. He doesn't overshare. He doesn't seek approval. These traits shift the dynamic instantly. Women don't feel chased, they feel chosen. Men who believe attraction fades often unconsciously withdraw. They shrink their posture, lower their expectations, and abandon their masculine presence. Ironically, this is what actually reduces attraction. When a man accepts his age with dignity and stops fighting time, he becomes aligned. Alignment creates confidence, and confidence is timeless. Age, in female psychology, represents accumulated wisdom when carried correctly. It suggests discernment. It suggests patience. It suggests a man who understands consequences and chooses deliberately. These qualities become increasingly valuable as emotional depth replaces surface excitement. A man over 60 who embodies calm authority becomes more visible, not less. Attraction does not belong to the young. It belongs to the grounded. The eyes reveal what words try to hide. Before a man speaks, before he gestures, before he even moves, his eyes communicate his emotional state. Women instinctively understand this. They don't analyze it logically. They feel it. This is why eye contact carries so much power, especially in men over 60. By this stage in life, the eyes are no longer just physical features. They are emotional records. In female psychology, the eyes are read as a measure of emotional authority. Calm eyes signal self-regulation. Restless eyes suggest uncertainty. Avoidant eyes indicate insecurity or unresolved fear. When a man holds eye contact without tension, without seeking validation, It communicates inner stability. Women trust what feels stable. Trust is the foundation of attraction, especially as maturity replaces novelty. Older men often underestimate the effect of their gaze. They assume attraction depends on physical sharpness or youthful intensity, but intensity is not the same as presence. In fact, overly intense eye contact can feel invasive or needy. What women respond to is a steady, relaxed gaze, one that doesn't rush, doesn't flinch, and doesn't attempt to dominate. This kind of eye contact says, I'm comfortable here. Comfort is magnetic. Life leaves its imprint on the eyes. Loss, responsibility, disappointment, joy, and resilience all shape how a man looks at the world. When those experiences are integrated rather than resisted, the eyes soften. They gain depth. Women perceive this depth as emotional intelligence. A man who has processed his experiences radiates composure. A man who hasn't carries tension in his stare. Female psychology is highly sensitive to emotional safety. The eyes play a crucial role in determining whether a man feels safe or unpredictable. Eyes that are calm, grounded, and attentive create a sense of being seen rather than evaluated. This distinction matters. Being seen makes a woman feel understood. Being evaluated makes her feel judged. The former builds connection, the latter shuts it down. Another powerful signal in the eyes is self-trust. Men who constantly scan for approval or reassurance reveal insecurity through micro movements, darting glances, excessive blinking, or forced intensity. Women notice these signals unconsciously. In contrast, a man who maintains eye contact naturally, without forcing it, demonstrates confidence in his own presence. He isn't asking for permission to exist in the moment. As men age, their eyes often slow down. This isn't weakness, it's refinement. A slower gaze communicates patience and discernment. It suggests a man who chooses his focus carefully. Women are drawn to men who are selective, not reactive. Selectivity implies value. If a man isn't desperate to capture attention, his attention becomes valuable. There is also honesty in the eyes. Older men who have accepted themselves tend to look at others with openness rather than defense. Their eyes aren't guarded. They aren't trying to protect an image. This openness feels authentic. Authenticity is deeply attractive because it allows genuine connection without pretense. Emotional authority doesn't come from dominance. It comes from regulation. A man whose eyes remain steady during silence, disagreement, or uncertainty demonstrates mastery over his emotions. Women respond strongly to this because it signals reliability under pressure. A man who can remain present without agitation feels trustworthy at a visceral level. Ultimately, the eyes of a man over 60 tell a story no youthful feature can replace. They reflect how he has lived, how he has loved, and how he relates to himself. When those eyes convey peace rather than resistance, women feel drawn, not because of age, but because of depth. Hands communicate more than most men realize. Long before words, women observe how a man uses his hands, how he rests them, how he moves them, and how comfortable he seems within his own physical presence. In female psychology, hands are closely associated with capability, control, and emotional stability. This becomes especially important in men over 60, where attraction is no longer driven by excitement, but by signals of reliability and grounded strength. Women subconsciously ask a simple question when they notice a man's hands: can he handle life without panic? Hands that move erratically, fidget constantly, or clench tightly suggest inner tension. They reveal nervous energy, impatience, or a need to control outcomes. Calm hands, on the other hand, signal composure. They suggest a man who is not overwhelmed by circumstances, who does not react impulsively, and who trusts his ability to respond when necessary. In older men, hands often reflect a lifetime of action. They may show signs of work, effort, or time, but attraction is not diminished by these signs. What matters is how those hands now exist in stillness. When a man rests his hands comfortably, without gripping, without hiding them, he communicates acceptance of himself. Acceptance creates ease, and ease creates attraction. Female psychology places strong emphasis on nonverbal consistency. When a man's words sound confident, but his hands reveal tension, women feel the mismatch instantly. They may not articulate it, but they sense something is off. Hands that align with a calm voice and relaxed posture reinforce authenticity. This alignment builds trust, and trust deepens attraction. The way a man gestures also matters. Controlled, intentional movements suggest clarity of thought. Excessive gesturing suggests anxiety or a need to persuade. Minimal, purposeful gestures indicate confidence. A man who doesn't overuse his hands is seen as someone who doesn't over-explain himself. Women are drawn to men who are comfortable with silence and who allow their presence to speak. Hands also reflect boundaries. Men who constantly reach, touch, or invade space too quickly communicate neediness or entitlement. In contrast, a man who allows space, who moves his hands deliberately, signals respect and self-control. Female psychology responds strongly to self-control because it suggests safety. Safety does not reduce attraction, it enhances it. There is also something deeply reassuring about hands that appear capable. This doesn't mean physical strength alone. It means steadiness. A man who pours a drink without rushing, who adjusts his clothing without fuss, who handles objects with care sends a message of competence. Competence is attractive because it suggests a man who can manage both small details and larger responsibilities. As men age, many stop paying attention to their body language. They focus on what they say rather than how they exist in space. But hands are constantly communicating. They reveal whether a man feels at ease with his age or is still fighting it. A man who hides his hands, stuffs them into pockets, or keeps them tense often carries unresolved insecurity. Women sense this instantly. Calm hands also suggest emotional availability. When a man's hands are relaxed, his nervous system is relaxed. This creates a subtle emotional invitation. Women feel more comfortable opening up around men whose physical presence feels grounded. Emotional openness flows more easily when the body signals safety. Ultimately, hands represent how a man interacts with the world. They show whether he meets life with resistance or with steadiness. For men over 60, hands become one of the most honest indicators of inner state. When those hands communicate calm capability, women feel it immediately without needing explanation. The shoulders and overall posture of a man communicate his relationship with himself long before any conversation begins. Women instinctively read posture as a summary of a man's inner state. It tells them whether he feels defeated or grounded, insecure, settled, tense, or at ease. For men over 60, this signal becomes even more powerful because posture reflects how a man has carried the weight of life and whether that weight broke him or strengthened him. In female psychology, shoulders represent masculine structure, not size, not muscle, but frame. A man with relaxed, open shoulders signals self-respect. He takes up space without apology. He is not trying to dominate, but he is not shrinking either. This balance is deeply attractive because it reflects internal stability. Women feel safer around men whose bodies show calm authority rather than tension or collapse. Slumped shoulders tell a different story. They suggest emotional fatigue, resignation, or unresolved disappointment. Many men unconsciously carry regret in their posture. Years of stress, self-criticism, or feeling overlooked slowly pull the shoulders forward and down. Women may not consciously think, "This man lacks confidence," but their nervous system registers something off. Attraction weakens when posture communicates surrender. A straight spine and open chest, however, send a silent message of acceptance, not arrogance. Acceptance. It says, "I am comfortable with who I am and where I stand." This is critical in older men. When a man stops fighting his age and starts embodying it with dignity, his posture naturally improves. He no longer leans away from life. He stands inside it. Female psychology responds strongly to men who appear internally aligned. Alignment means the body matches the mind. A man who believes in his value carries himself differently. His shoulders don't tense up when he enters a room. His chest doesn't collapse when he listens. He remains physically present, even in silence. That presence creates an unspoken sense of leadership. Leadership, in this context, is not about control. It's about emotional steadiness. A man with good posture signals that he can hold pressure without crumbling. Women are drawn to this because it suggests reliability. They sense that this man won't emotionally disappear under stress. His body shows resilience without aggression. Another overlooked aspect of posture is breathing. Men with open shoulders breathe deeper. Deep breathing slows the nervous system. A calm nervous system is felt by others. Women subconsciously synchronize with this calm, especially in close proximity. This is why some men feel comforting to be around without saying much. Their posture regulates the emotional space. Men over 60 often underestimate how visible their internal state is. They may believe attraction is lost because of wrinkles or age, when in reality, it's often posture doing the speaking. A man who walks upright, shoulders relaxed, chin neutral, communicates self-trust. Self-trust is timeless. It doesn't age. Posture also reflects boundaries. A man who stands tall but relaxed shows he respects himself. Self-respect invites respect from others. Women are naturally drawn to men who honor themselves because it suggests they will also honor those around them. Poor posture often reflects poor boundaries, men who overgive, overcompromise, or suppress their needs. Women sense this imbalance immediately. Masculine presence is not loud, it's grounded. The shoulders frame this presence. When a man's posture says, "I belong here," women feel it, not as intimidation, but as reassurance. This reassurance forms the psychological foundation of attraction and maturity. Ultimately, shoulders and posture are not about appearance. They are about energy. They reveal whether a man carries life with resentment or with acceptance. When a man over 60 stands comfortably in his body, women don't see age, they feel strength. The face is one of the first places women look, but not for the reasons most men assume. It isn't about smooth skin, sharp angles, or youthfulness. In female psychology, a man's face, especially the jaw and the way tension settles around it, reveals how he relates to pressure, decisions, and responsibility. For men over 60, the face becomes a psychological signal, not a cosmetic one. The jawline, in particular, reflects decisiveness. A relaxed jaw suggests a man who has made peace with his choices. A clenched jaw suggests unresolved inner conflict. Women don't consciously analyze this, but they feel it. A man who carries constant tension in his face often appears rigid, impatient, or emotionally unavailable. That tension communicates resistance to life rather than mastery of it. Wrinkles, lines, and age marks do not reduce attraction. What reduces attraction is emotional stiffness. A face that looks permanently strained signals a man who is still fighting battles internally. Women instinctively avoid emotional friction. They are drawn to men whose faces show adaptability and acceptance, even when those faces carry time. Facial expression plays a major role in how a man is perceived. Men who maintain a neutral, relaxed expression communicate stability. Those who constantly frown, tighten their lips, or furrow their brow appear mentally burdened. Female psychology reads this as emotional heaviness. Women may not label it, but they sense that interaction will require effort rather than ease. Another critical aspect is micro-expression control. Men who are emotionally regulated display fewer reactive facial movements. Their expressions shift naturally rather than abruptly. This signals emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence becomes increasingly attractive with age because it suggests a man who understands himself and others. Women feel safer engaging with men who don't react impulsively. The face also reveals how a man listens. A relaxed jaw and soft eyes while listening communicate presence. Women are highly attuned to whether they are being genuinely heard or merely tolerated. A man whose face remains open during conversation builds immediate psychological connection. An older man who listens without judgment feels rare. Acceptance shows on the face. Men who have accepted their past, both successes and failures, tend to have softer features. Their expressions don't constantly defend or explain. This softness is not weakness, it is emotional maturity. Female psychology values emotional maturity far more than surface-level confidence. Men who resist aging often carry frustration in their facial muscles. They attempt to appear younger, sharper, or more aggressive than they feel. This internal conflict manifests as tension. Women sense incongruence between appearance and energy. Congruence, not youth, is what creates attraction. A calm face also communicates patience. Patience suggests a man who doesn't rush intimacy, doesn't pressure outcomes, and doesn't demand validation. Women are drawn to this because it creates emotional safety. Safety allows attraction to grow naturally rather than being forced. The jaw is also connected to boundaries. Men who constantly clench their jaw often suppress their emotions or needs. Suppression eventually creates emotional distance. Women feel this distance and interpret it as lack of availability. A relaxed jaw signals a man who is comfortable expressing himself without losing control. Ultimately, a man's face tells the story of how he has lived inside his own mind. For men over 60, attraction is not about looking young, it's about looking at peace. When a man's face reflects inner alignment rather than resistance, women feel drawn to him instinctively without needing to understand why. Movement reveals truth. Before words, before facial expression, before even posture is fully registered, women notice how a man moves through space. In female psychology, the walk is a direct reflection of self-respect, inner rhythm, and emotional confidence. For men over 60, this becomes one of the strongest signals of masculine presence because movement cannot be faked for long. It is the body expressing how the man truly feels about himself. A rushed walk communicates anxiety. A hesitant walk communicates doubt. An aggressive walk communicates tension. Women read these signals instinctively. They don't analyze them. Their nervous system responds automatically. A man who moves with calm deliberation sends a powerful message. He is not chasing life, and life is not chasing him. That sense of equilibrium is deeply attractive. Men often believe confidence is about speed or force. But true confidence slows things down. An older man who walks at a steady pace with even steps and relaxed arms demonstrates emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is one of the most attractive traits in mature masculine psychology. It suggests that the man can handle pressure without becoming reactive. The way a man initiates movement also matters. Men who hesitate before stepping forward often carry self-doubt. Men who launch forward impulsively often carry inner restlessness. A grounded man moves with intention. Each step appears chosen rather than rushed or avoided. Women perceive this as decisiveness. Decisiveness signals leadership without control. Female psychology is especially sensitive to rhythm. A man whose walk has a natural rhythm appears aligned with himself. His steps aren't erratic. His weight shifts smoothly. This rhythm creates a subtle sense of harmony. Harmony feels safe. Safety allows attraction to form without resistance. Another important element is how a man enters and exits spaces. Men who rush through doorways or hesitate at thresholds reveal insecurity. A man who enters a room calmly, acknowledging his presence without seeking attention, communicates self-assurance. He doesn't need to announce himself. His movement does it for him. As men age, many unconsciously reduce their physical presence. They take smaller steps, lower their gaze, and move as if trying not to be noticed. This is not humility, it is self-erasure. Women sense this immediately. In contrast, a man who maintains full, relaxed strides shows that he still honors his place in the world. That self-honor is attractive. The walk also reflects emotional boundaries. Men who drift aimlessly or follow others' movements lack direction. Men who walk their own path, both literally and figuratively, communicate autonomy. Autonomy is attractive because it suggests a man who chooses rather than complies. Women are drawn to men who are internally guided. Balance plays a role as well. A steady walk indicates physical and emotional balance. A man who moves smoothly over uneven ground suggests adaptability. Adaptability is crucial in mature attraction because it shows resilience rather than rigidity. Women respond to men who can adjust without losing composure. Movement also reveals patience. Men who walk without urgency demonstrate that they trust timing. They are not trying to force outcomes. This patience contrasts sharply with desperation, which repels. A man who trusts time projects abundance. Abundance attracts. Ultimately, the walk is a silent introduction. It tells women whether a man respects himself, trusts himself, and feels at home in his body. For men over 60, this signal carries enormous weight. When movement reflects calm authority rather than tension or retreat, attraction arises naturally without effort or explanation. Attraction does not disappear with age, it becomes more honest. What women respond to in men over 60 is not perfection, youth, or performance, but the visible evidence of inner mastery. Every signal discussed, the eyes, the hands, the shoulders, the face, the walk, points to the same truth. Women are drawn to men who are settled within themselves. Female psychology is not impressed by effort. It is moved by alignment. When a man's body reflects emotional control, self-respect, and calm confidence, attraction arises naturally. There is nothing to prove and nothing to chase. Presence replaces pursuit. A man who has made peace with his life carries a different kind of power. He doesn't compete with younger men because he doesn't need to. He understands that value deepens when it is grounded and masculinity strengthens when it is restrained. Age does not take attraction away, resistance does. When a man stands comfortably in who he has become, women don't see years, they feel stability. And stability, at any stage of life, is irresistible.